Hi, this is Jameson Mitchell, and in this video, I'll be looking at the week ahead using the Lenormand and doing a line of 5 reading, so stay tuned. And here we are, cards on the table. I've taken the liberty of shuffling the deck, cutting the cards, fanning out the cards, and picking these 5 cards are going to represent our line of 5 reading for the week. And before I go on, the deck that's assisting me with this week's reading is the Unforgettable Lenormand. I've used it before, and I'm just like I did in those previous readings, I'm going to put a link in the description box below to a video that showcases all the cards in the deck. So if you like what you see in the reading in terms of the card images, you might want to check out the video and then also go over to the website of Teri Smith, that's the creator of the deck, and her company name is Divine Walks. So I will provide that information in the description box below. So if you're no stranger to my readings, you know that I always start with the middle card. The middle card informs us of what the potential focus or issue could be for the week ahead. So this card is the Sun. Ooh, okay, this is a great card. The Sun card is the best card in the deck. It represents for me things like success, confidence. It can represent things like illumination and consciousness and enlightenment. So I like this. This is a card about positive energy. So it could be that this week we could have as an experience a shining moment, a moment where we get to stand out, we radiate our brilliance and our best, or that we're going to have some moment of success this week. So that's the center card. So now the other cards around the Sun card will inform us or give us more details about what that could be. So I always start with the card on the far left. I always look at the card on the far left as being the trigger or something that's influencing the issue. Okay, so now this card is the key. So what I'm seeing right here is I have 2 cards here in the reading that for me represent yes. So these are my yes cards. So the key is a card that represents something important, something certain, something vital. The key can represent an answer or a solution. So I like this, that the fact that the Sun is showing here with this card, but it can represent that there's an answer or solution coming our way this week. It could also be that there's going to be some sort of revelation, some sort of discovery, some sort of breakthrough. So I like that. But the key represents something certain and something important, something vital. So reading the 2 cards as a pair, if we read key and Sun, it could be the key to success or the key to confidence. So I'm seeing that. So there's something important going on this week. So let's take a look at the card in the middle. Okay, the card in the middle is the Tower. So now the Tower is a card for me that can represent institutions. It can represent a company or a corporation. It can represent some form of ruling or rule or policy, a regulation, some kind of legislation. When I look at it in terms of that, I always look at the Tower card as, you know, saying something is being made official. So I'm seeing that. Now, the Tower can also represent things like isolation or separation, because you keep them with the idea like somebody being in an ivory tower, you know, they're kind of removed from the world. And there are moments in time where we do have to take a step back and kind of, you know, keep to ourselves for whatever the reason. So the Tower can mean that. It can also represent a long life. So going with the idea that the Sun card for me can sometimes represent the luck of life is very interesting that, you know, I see a card that can represent long life next to the Sun card. So I'm seeing that. That's the Tower. So now let's look at the cards on the other side of the Sun. So here we have the Cross. Okay, so now the Cross is known to be a challenging card. So, but for me, I look at it as challenging, and it also has a positive side. So first, the challenging aspects of the Cross. The Cross can represent a burden. It can represent some level of responsibility. It can represent some difficulty. So there may be some difficulty, but even with that, the fact that it's next to the sun card being the best card in the deck, it outshines all the cards on the table. So especially the more challenging cards, it kind of minimizes or reduces its challenging effects. So, but still, this card can represent things like burden, responsibility, difficulty. Now, I also look at the cross as a symbol or a card of, religion or spirituality. So I see that aspect of it. It can also represent things like karma or fate. If you believe in those kinds of things, this card could represent that. I also see the cross as something that's critical or necessary. And then the last part that goes back to more of the challenging side of the cross. It can represent something like a test, like this is a testing period or a testing time, especially when you're going through a lot of suffering, because suffering is a part of the cross. If you're going through a lot of suffering, it could be like a time of testing. It could be you're going through a crisis or an ordeal. And with that, then going back to the more positive side of the cross, it can represent a need to have faith. I have learned in my own personal experience that sometimes when we're going through a difficult time, and if we have any kind of faith background or we walk any kind of spiritual path, that is the time where we need to lean in on that faith, on that spiritual practice, on your spiritual beliefs, because that's when you really need to rely on them the most, is when we're going through a testing period or a difficult time. So I'm seeing that with the cross. And then the final card, rounding out the line, is the tree. Okay, so now if you've been following my readings for a while now, the tree is no stranger to our line of 5 readings. It shows up quite often. So for me, the tree can represent growth. I see it as a growth and development card because growth takes time, and the tree is something that grows over time. So I see that. So personal growth and development, spiritual growth and development. This is a card that can represent health and healing. And it can also be, just like the cross can represent a need for faith, this card here would be a need for patience. Again, going with the idea that growth takes time. So those are the cards. So now what I'll do is I'll start looking at the pairs. So the way I read a line of 5 to get more information that could help us with the overall meaning of the line would be, I start with the cards that are flanking the sun cards. So here we have the cross and the tower. So that could possibly be a religious or spiritual institution, going with the idea that the tower is about institutions, and this card would be about religion or spirituality. So it could be, a religious or spiritual institution. It could be that the whole idea about the isolation or separation that I was talking about before with the tower is that it's critical or it's necessary. If we're going to withdraw, it's because we really need to do that. So I'm seeing that. It could also be going with the idea that the tower is a card that can represent, some policy, some ruling, some regulation, something of that nature. Then with the cross, it could be something that is critical, a critical rule, a critical policy, critical regulation. And then the last thing, if we go with the idea that the tower is a company or corporation or some sort of firm or institution, then it could be that that company or organization or institution, will be facing or experiencing some crisis or some ordeal. So I'm seeing that as possibilities for that combination. Then we look at the cards that are flanking at the end, and so we have the key and the tree. So going with the idea that the tree is about health, then the pair of the key and the tree could be, a health discovery, going with the key being about discovery, or it could be the key to health or life, going with the tree. It could also be a breakthrough, a discovery, or a revelation that leads to growth or healing. So I'm seeing that because the tree comes after the key. And then going with the idea that the key represents something important, it could be that the importance of health or healing. So I'm seeing those as possibilities for that. Then what we can do is we can look at the pairs on each side. So we have a pair here with the key and the tower. So if I go with the idea that the key represents an answer or solution, then this could be an official, going with the tower being official, an official answer. If you look at sometimes Lenormand being very literal, then you could say the key being an actual key, and then the tower being an actual building. So it could be, a key to a building, a key to a company, something of that. It could also be a discovery or a breakthrough that becomes official, since the tower comes after the key. And then the last thing I'm seeing here, going with what I've talked about already, it could be like a key policy, a key rule, a key regulation, something important. Now, here's an aspect that I haven't touched on yet. Sometimes the tower can represent, self-employment, going with the idea that you're in this big building all by yourself. It could be self-employment or doing freelance work. So here we have, somebody maybe either discovering some type of freelance work, or, the importance of freelance work, or, some sort of answer solution to a situation with a company or a situation with their freelance work. There's something about that combination. So if you're self-employed, that could be that you discover something, or you find an answer to something that's going on within your business. So, and then going with that, with the sun card coming after it, whatever that important answer or discovery is, it may actually lead to some form of success, because the sun card represents success. So I'm seeing that. Now, on the other side of the sun, we have the pairing of the cross and the tree. So now here we could have something pertaining to some form of growth or healing. So possibilities here could be, somebody experiencing a health crisis or a health ordeal. It could be, some form of grief or suffering that's taking place is actually going to become healed, because this is a healing card. So healing for that grief or suffering process. And then with that, it could be, that idea with the cross being something about faith, having the faith or leaning in on your faith, leads to becoming, a growth process or a healing process, something about that. Like some sort of crisis actually leads to some form of personal or spiritual growth. You have that testing period, and then you come on the other side of it, and you have grown as a person as a result of having the experience. So those are some of the elements that I'm seeing with that. Now, going back to what I said about somebody's company or freelance work, going with the idea that it's successful, it could be that it's critical, the success is critical, or it's necessary for that company or that person's future growth and development of their business. So I'm seeing this as a possibility of like discovering something, or getting an answer or solution to something that you're experiencing in your company or your own freelance work or your own business, that can open the door, because the key unlocks things. So open the door to some form of success that is critical for the growth, for the long-term growth of your business or your company. So I'm seeing that as a possibility for the line. So now the next thing that we can do in the line is we can look at all the playing cards, turn it over to the playing cards to see what more detail that they might want to share in a technique that I call looking for the hidden dynamics. Okay, so now turning things over to the playing cards, we have the 8 of diamonds with the key, we have the 6 of spades on the tower, we have the ace of diamonds on the sun, we have the 6 of clubs on the cross, and the 7 of hearts on the tree. So turning over to the playing cards using my technique called the hidden dynamics, what it is that the dynamics will focus on the center card and just give us some more detail about the possibilities that could be facing this idea of success or confidence. So I start with the cards on the outer ends first. And so taking the 8 from the 8 of diamonds and the 7 from the 7 of hearts, we add those together and we have 15. So what we do is we look for the 15th card in the deck. And so the 15th card in the deck is the bear. So now the bear, and I'll put it down here so it's closer to the camera. Okay, so now the bear is a card that represents power, it represents strength, going with the idea that the tower was about a company or institution or somebody's self-employment business, then the bear would be something like the boss. I always see the bear as, you know, somebody in a position of authority, somebody who is in a position of power, somebody who is influential in running things or, you know, overseeing things. So it could be, again, if you work at a company, then this could be somebody who's connected to you in terms of being in a position of authority. Or if you have your own business, then this would be you and you being the boss. So I'm seeing that. And then here, going with the idea, how does this relate to the Sun card? The Sun card being a card about, you know, confidence, let's say, you know, being confident in your own sense of power and strength, in your sense of being the boss, being in charge, you know, being in control, things of that nature. I'm like, how can you be successful or confident in that position? So I'm seeing that as a possibility with the dynamic. Okay, and so now what we do is we look to the cards on the inside, the inner pair. So we have the 6 from the 6 of spades and the 6 from the 6 of clubs. We have 2 6s there. So now 6s as a number can represent responsibility, can represent choices and commitments, things of that nature. So there's something about maybe some choices or some commitments that need to be either looked at or decided upon or being honored this week. So because sometimes this card can, the 6 as a number can also be about, you know, promises, keeping your promises, your vows, you know, anything that you agree to do that you're going to do it. So I'm seeing that. So the 6 and the 6 together is 12. So the 12th card in the deck is the owls. In some decks it's the birds. In this deck, let me just say there are a few cards of the same card. So when I got this deck, it did have a birds card and it did have an owls card, and you get to decide which one you're going to use. And so I like the owls, so I stuck with that. So the owls can represent communication. This card for me represents communication. It represents conversation. It represents the spoken word. So there's something having to do with speaking. So it could be, you know, as mundane as, you know, a phone call or a voicemail that you might receive this week that's important. Going back to the key, you know, this might be an important thing. This might be the thing that plays a part in this discovery or revelation, or, you know, the answer or solution. It may be experienced in a phone call or through a phone call. And then it's interesting too because there are 2 owls on the card, so that could represent, you know, a two-way conversation, a two-party conversation. It could also be about a partnership, going with the idea about a company or a corporation. It could be about partners, you know, something of that nature. So I'm seeing that now. It could also be if somebody is self-employed and they're a solopreneur, they're working for themselves, by themselves, then this card would suggest that maybe one thing that might help in terms of growing your business, going over to the tree, that could be critical would be, you know, speaking, you know, having speaking engagements, or, you know, going to different groups and venues to speak. So I'm seeing that. Or it could be even so much that you attend a lecture or a workshop or something of that nature where the presenter, you know, an expert, going with the bear, you know, somebody who's influential or in a position of authority, who may have some resources. That's another aspect of the bear that just jumped out at me in the moment, that has some resources that will be helpful and important for you to do what you need to do in your business to help it grow. So I'm seeing that. So that's something that could be important. So now the other thing we can do with the playing cards, this would be the final thing, is to take all the values on the cards and add them all across to kind of create a final piece of advice using the hidden dynamics. So it would be 8 and 6. The ace is 1. Then we have a 6 again, and then rounding out the line with 7, we have 28. So this is interesting. So the 28th card in the deck is the gentleman. So here's the gentleman. So now the gentleman, if you're a woman watching this video, then it could suggest, based on some of the information that I said about this person of authority, this person who might be a speaker or something of that nature, could actually be a man. So typically when the gentleman shows up and it's for the readings for a woman, it would represent a man close to her. So going with the key could be, an important man or a man who has the answer or is providing the solution. So seeing that. Now, if you're a man watching this, then the gentleman card would be you. So in my particular case, I'm male, so the gentleman card is me. And so it's very interesting that he would show up in this line because I am also self-employed. I have my own business. And of course, just with all business people, I'm also looking for my business to grow. I think that if you're in business, that's just a given. It's part of that. So I'm seeing that. Now also too, my work is in some realm of healing. I am a Reiki practitioner, so there is some healing aspect to my work. And even as a reader, you could look at that as a form of spiritual healing, going with the pair of the cross and the tree. So very interesting that the man would show up. So those are the cards based on the playing cards revealing what the hidden dynamics are. So the last thing we can do is add up all the numbers on the cards and create a final essence card. This would show us what the whole essence of the reading could possibly be about, or giving us like the last final piece of advice. Okay, so we've looked at the original line of 5. We determined using the playing cards what the hidden dynamics could be. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take the numbers on the cards, and I say this every week, that the Lenormand for me has 3 different facets that I use. The first facet is the central image. The second facet is the playing card insert, and then the last is the number that it's assigned. So what I'll do is I'll take all the numbers and add them across. So the key is 33, the tower is 19, the sun is 31, the cross is 36, and then the tree is 5. That gives us a total of 124, and since it's a number over 36 because there's only 36 cards in the deck, I'll take the 3 digits, the 1, the 2, and the 4, add them together, and they add up to 7. So now this card for the summation card is a bit of a challenge, but again, it's all a matter of perspective and how you view it as a reader. It is the snake card. The snake card is the 7th card in the deck. So the snake card can represent, for me, some form of complication, something that's complex, some form of entanglement, something that's going to take some time to work through, because I always see this as a long and winding process. So I'm seeing that. Now, on the flip side, some people read the snake as a card of healing and transformation. So it just depends on what side you fall on. The beauty about having so many different readers in the world is that we all see something different. No one reader sees everything. So it's nice to have many readers because we all add different perspectives and different slants on things. So, but my particular slant with the snake is that it can represent some form of complication. So it could be, that going with the sun being the center card, it could be something that, maybe a complication that becomes illuminated, or we become aware of it, or we move through it, we move through it successfully, because all the other cards around it are so positive that I don't want to end it on a challenging or a negative note. So it could just be like there may be a complication, but in the end it gets worked through because we have the key, we have the sun, we have the tree, wonderful cards here surrounding it, and the sun being the best card in the deck, so I think it's going to minimize whatever that complication is going to be. So these are your cards for the week. Summing up, we have the key. The key is the answer or solution, breakthrough, a revelation, something important being discovered. The tower could be a company, an institution, could be someone's freelance work or self-employment. The sun as a focus could be, about success, confidence, being positive. If there is a complication, going back to the snake for a moment, then the sun card is saying, how can you be positive as you're moving through that complication? Then over to the cross, a cross can represent something that may require some faith, the positive energy is also, that's part of being faithful, or leaning on your faith is for that. So I'm seeing that it could also be that whatever this period of time is, it could be something that's critical and necessary, especially if, going with the tree, you are looking to grow your business, grow your company. Then there may be some information that's critical that you'll receive that's important to that. So this has been your Line of 5 reading. I am James Himm Mitchell, and I look forward to sharing the space here with you again in our next video. And until then, have an awesome week, stay positive, and take care.